We know some heroes are going to be very relevant going forward, and their stories have kind of been laid out for us in different cinematics, different in-game quests and stuff like that. So here it is, where we left off, story recap, the pre-War Within recap, what you've missed so far. Let's check this out.
Okay, so if you're confused about how our cast of characters actually enter War Within, this video's for you. What happens is we drop into Khadgar with a tight cast of established characters. We're basically a bit of an advanced guard, an advanced strike team trying to take down Xal'atath. Everyone on board has a personal mission, a big internal conflict, and a calling from the World Soul. We see Thrall and Magni with their connection to Azeroth, Alyria's hunt for the Void, and Anduin's journey to redemption. So today's mission is really simple. We're going to go through the key cast of characters, and I'm going to work out for you where everybody last left off, so you can start the War Within being in the loop. Just like I'm going to keep you in the loop with today's sponsor. Man, I get so busy in Overrun that I actually just fall behind in important stuff. And it means that I get those "your subscription just renewed" emails that kind of sting. Well, Rocket Money solves that problem, and it makes money less stressful. It's a personal finance tool that helps you lower your bills, stay on top of your subscriptions, and manage your money. And you can start for free today at rocketmoney.com/Bellular Warcraft. So let's talk about those subscriptions. Rocket Money will securely and safely identify recurring charges for you. When it does that, it will give you a UI to easily cancel them in just a few taps, which is pretty damn sweet. So if this has been on your to-do list, then Rocket Money can just make it easy to solve today. What about your bills? If you want them lower, but you don't want to spend your life just listening to hold music on a phone line, you can upload them, and Rocket Money will help negotiate them for you. Like seriously, if your phone or broadband is like after its contract date and it's just rolling over, often you can get a way better deal. I recently just did that. And the numbers are pretty damn good. They're saving their customers up to $740 a year. They've got over 500 million in cancelled subscriptions. So if you want to spend more and save less, join the over 5 million people using Rocket Money at rocketmoney.com/Bellular Warcraft, or just click link down in the description. You can start for free, check it out, and if you want more features, then you can go for premium.
Get your money straight.
rocketmoney.com/Bellular Warcraft to get started.
Okay, here we go. Anduin.
Anduin is front and center once again. He's a little broken. He doesn't really have a clear path, but for the first time in years, he actually feels something.
Can I just say something about this cinematic really quick? It was, at first, when it first happened, I was like, I felt the emotion of it. I was like, oh my God, this is some good lines in here, but where's the action? I'll be honest, now that we're looking back at it, we just got the recent Xal'atath fighting Khadgar cinematic cutscene and all that stuff, and the animated one with Alyria. I think we're going to get enough action in this. I was kind of scared when I first, I was like, oh, more emotion. And we're going to get deeper in our feelings in this expansion. No, it doesn't look like that. It really looks like Dragonflight is transitioning from there into the War Within. There's going to be a lot of action, a lot of war, a lot of people dying. I wonder if we're going to lose the main character early on, but it definitely seems like I don't know, the danger is heightened. That's how it feels in this expansion so far.
Culminated in the Shadowlands
This turned out to be a good cinematic.
And he basically went from the head of the Alliance making brutal decisions in the Fourth War to a tool of the Jailer committing horrible acts trapped inside his own body, aware of the terrible things his body was doing. And this was summed up the last time we set eyes on him. In a vision from Dorothea, Toronto's owl left to watch Sylvanas in the Maw, we saw Anduin. Now, of course, Sylvanas had been his jailer, but now, as a fellow slave to the jailer, well, she's one of the only people who could actually understand his pain. Now, even then, Sylvanas questioned why he did not return to his people. The basic answer, Anduin was traumatized and did not believe that people would accept him back. He's compounded his trauma since Varian died at the Broken Shore.
To be fair to Anduin, he was pretty traumatic. His boss fight was one of the worst. I say it all the time. I think it goes down as one of the hardest boss fights ever in the history of the game. If you did the Anduin boss fight on heroic difficulty or higher, you have dealt with some of the worst shit that has ever been put out there. One-shot mechanic after one-shot mechanic. Man, the trauma that caused.
Becoming king, sending Westfall farmers to the front line to die, failing to protect Teldrassil. So it wasn't just the jailer, he also felt responsible for so many of the terrible events that happened while he was king. And after the Shadowlands, he went to ground, with occasional reported sightings by SI7. The Calling short story filled in many of the blanks for us. Anduin took the name Jarek and wandered Azeroth, doing hard labor by day, drowning his sorrows by night. Anytime he settled, the visions would return, and then he would hit the road again, trying to outrun them. That is, however, until he ended up in the Stormsong Valley and started working at a mill. And while working at this mill, for the first time, he grew to love the people around him. But that is...
And I just say Stormsong Valley, he picked a good spot. One of the most beautiful zones put into the game ever. I freaking love Stormsog Valley. It is so pretty. The mountain ranges, the way you can see the entire zone basically from the hilltops. Man, picturesque. Good choice on Anduin's part.
Is of course until the World Soul called again, and once more he hit the road, but this time feeling a little bit more purpose. That is of course what leads him to the Sword and Silithus and the scene with Thrall that we see in the cinematic. So for Anduin, he's definitely broken, he's definitely struggling, and this time it's not just a case of him finding the light and suddenly being okay. No, there's his relationship with the light. There's of course his kingdom where, yeah, he's their king, but he also left for ages with Turalyon being the regent, and of course the planet calling out to him. That does mean that while he has some hope, while there are some positive emotions there and he's going in the right direction, he does have an absolutely monumental amount of work left to do to basically pick up the pieces of his life and get back on track.
Find your light, Anduin.
We recently saw Thrall try to commune with the elements, but the harder he tried, the more they just slipped away, and that made him frustrated. Thing is, though, it's not really Thrall's fault this time. The planet is in a dire state and her elements are out of whack, so it's not surprising then that Thrall is coming with us, but he's not really the frontline warrior that he was. He's grown a bit, he's went through a lot, he's got a unique perspective. He could be a bit of a steady hand to guide us through the madness that is about to unfold here. You see,
there was an entire thing about Thrall returning as war chief not too long ago, and I just think that's crazy. He's not going to. The Horde now has its council or whatever, and I feel like Lothamar has taken a big lead on that, and he probably will continue to do so into the Midnight expansion, where obviously the elves are going to be very important. But I think Thrall's just going to take a big, he's a big important NPC role, and that's as far as it's going to go. As far as the Horde goes, I don't think he's going to become a leader for them again.
Before Sylvanas unleashed the Jailer's whole world-ending plan, she kidnapped various defenders of the world who could stop her, and as former World Shaman and one of the World Soul's top defenders, Thrall was top of that list. Now, during the Shadowlands, Thrall met Draka, well, the spirit of Draka, his mother. She had sacrificed herself to save him as a baby, and in doing so, she earned a place in Maldraxxus. She asked who he'd become, but Thrall couldn't really tell her. He wasn't a leader anymore, but he still was depended on by people. He wasn't fighting in the front lines of the Shadowlands, he was mostly a witness, so he's had a bit of a funny place in the world. Thrall reflected on his journey from the internment camps of Lordaeron years ago to freeing the orcs and giving them a home in Kalimdor. And the final step in that process was bringing back the Kosh'arg, which is a yearly festival where all of the orc clans, even those traditionally, who fight each other, where they unite.
Yeah, if you're wondering where this is from, this is the Orc Heritage Armor quest, and it was actually pretty cool. I watched some of the cutscenes from it. Not bad at all.
And they celebrate their ancestors and look to the future. And with that being re-established, in a way, Thrall has come full circle. And that means it's finally time to retire, or so one would think, because he too has got the visions. Alyria has been set up as a sort of super weapon for the Void. What happened is she absorbed the Dark Naru, Lura, giving her essentially the powers of a godlike entity to call on. The problem is she can only use that power as much as she can maintain her own sanity. If she
By the way, this power is absolutely savage. If you have not watched the Alyria cutscene yet, with the little animated short that they created for her, holy crap. When she goes Void, when they're fighting against the Legion, oh my god, she just tears through them. Literally obliterates all of them, and I believe that part of the lore is that when she's in Void form, if a demon is killed by the Void, it does not go back to the Twisting Nether, it just dies, it ceases to exist. So she was just freaking slaughtered. It was a crazy ass scene. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out.
Into it too much, she will probably just lose herself to the Void. That is where Locust Walker stepped in, essentially teaching her the fundamentals of balance, but also pointing out her one major weakness: family. Alyria fights for family. If you know her deep past, well, you know that pretty profoundly. And that means she's willing to sacrifice just about anything for them. So to Locust Walker, that is a massive, massive risk. And we actually saw some of that risk play out in the Darkheart patch. The thing that Locust Walker maybe doesn't understand is that Turalyon and Arator may actually be the only things keeping her sane, her one connection to reality that is not messed up by Void. Now, after the Legion expansion...
If you don't know, Arator is their son, the son of Light and Shadow, maybe. There is legend of a son of Light and Shadow, and I still say it's probably Arator. I still think he's going to get a new model. He's going to be very important going forward into the Midnight expansion, most likely. So pay attention to that name. He is their child. And yeah, obviously, Alyria is going to play a massive role in the expansion as a whole. So her son most likely will become very relevant.
Illyria
He was relevant, by the way, in the Visions of N'Zoth, which we played through, where she loses her mind to the Void, and she like sends her son through a Void portal to N'Zoth. It was some crazy shit that happened in that vision. Whether or not that happens, we'll have to wait and see.
dropped out of the story while all of the old god gambits were playing out. She was clearly not N'Zoth's tool to use, but one of his servants, Il'gynoth, said this: "At the hour of her third death, she will usher in our coming." And curiously, Alyria herself said that she had felt like she's died twice already. Once in Draenor, and once again when she absorbed Lura. After which Xal'atath said, "The caterpillar has become the butterfly. She's all but ours now." Which certainly is a little bit suspicious. I mean, seriously, that is the Void essentially saying that they are going to corrupt her, and she pretty much is theirs. And
Yeah, and Locust Walker, who seems to believe that he can see into the Void and delve with the Void, do all this stuff with the Void, either he is completely oblivious to the fact that that Xal'atath is going to try to use Alyria, or he believes that he can beat it. It's got to be one or the other. Because there's the way he's betraying. He could be completely on the other side too. Locust Walker's a suspicious character, to say the least. But I actually think he's a very cool and intriguing character.
And so we saw some of that in Dragonflight's final patch, where Alyria hunted down Xal'atath, but just ended up in a trap, specifically designed to point out her weaknesses regarding her family. And so that is essentially the situation. Alyria wants to do anything that she can to protect her family. The big question is, she is on a knife edge, and will she actually push so far to save her family that she ends up losing them and everything that makes her who she is? Xal'atath. Outside of messing with Alyria and Darkheart, Xal'atath's presence has been slowly building in the franchise. She double-dealed her way to freedom in battle for Azeroth and then disappeared through a Void portal. Of course, we knew she would return, but it did take a little bit of time to connect the dots. Naga prophecies washed up in the Forbidden Shore, claiming the Void had a harbinger who would usher in Ashara's coming. Then, Eridikron, the seemingly big antagonist of Dragonflight.
By the way, Ajara, another very big character that is certainly going to become relevant again. Probably not the War Within, most likely Midnight. Obviously, elves are going to be the center of that expansion. And how could you talk about elves with not talking about one of the greatest elven empires and their queen, Ajara?
Flight actually revealed that he was working with the Harbinger, giving us this silhouetted shot that was all but confirmed to be Xal'atath. Then, over in classic Season of Discovery, a shadowy figure with some of the same motivations and dress sense as Xal'atath had been making moves. She offers what we think is powerful gear for apparently trivial items. There's a simple box hidden away in Blackfathom, a small part of the dream used to create the Emerald Nightmare. A lot of strange things. And in Dragonflight, Xal'atath was also seen collecting things like, of course, the Darkheart artifact and Galakron's essence. And in the War Within, we see her collecting the blood of old gods. So either she has a plan for all of this stuff, or she's just slurping up all these artifacts to maximize her power. There's another angle to this. Through the staff...
We don't know yet, but that was weird, the fast forward. We don't know what she's using it for yet, but when she shows up to Dalaran, she has it in her hand, right? In that cinematic where her and Khadgar are kind of chatting it up, she's got it there in her hand before he blasts her. So she's going to use it for something in Dalaran. What it is, we have no idea. I still don't know, nobody does, what the Black Heart actually does, or what the Dark Heart actually does. We know that it can hold immense power within it, but for what? Is it a bomb? Is it a shoot beams? We don't know yet. But it is relevant.
But there is another angle to this. Through the staff Void Song, we found out that she was actually the harbinger of Dementius, who is a Void Lord. And worse, we learned that the ethereal homeworld of Koresh actually had a world soul that sang a radiant song, just like Azeroth is singing, just before Dementia showed up and essentially consumed the world. So the stakes are pretty high. And of course, whatever happens next, Xal'atath will need servants, and that is what seems to bring her to Azj-Kahet over the last few years. She's elevated Ansurek to the throne and began mutating the Rubians using the blood of old gods, creating the Ascended. Azj-Kahet is now a very, very powerful kingdom. Question is, what does Xal'atath get in return? We're not exactly sure, but...
Also the site of our first raid. Yeah, we're going to be going in there raiding. I wonder if we kill the queen at the end. I mean, she might be too far gone and corrupted to save her at this point. She killed her own mom, so she's kind of messed up. But we're going to fight her. She's the final boss of the first season of the first raid in the War Within. So what happens to her, whether or not we kill her, what happens to the rest of the Nerubians, we'll have to find out.
At the very least.
We do know, by the way, there are some Nerubians who have rejected her as queen and stuff, and that's why there is a Nerubian faction in the War Within that we can get reputation with.
She does have an army to do it with. Following Legion, Khadgar managed to wrestle Dalaran out of faction politics and essentially just make it a planetary defense platform where mage things would happen. So, when the Fourth War kicked off, he returned to Dalaran in disgust, and from the top, he occasionally glimpsed beyond the Veil to the Shadowlands, and at the tail end of that expansion, he showed up in Oribos looking a little bit uneasy. He said that he wanted to visit the Shadowlands before something happened. He didn't really say what, but it's Khadgar investigating things, so obviously there's gravity to it. Or it could even be more simple that he wants to visit the Shadowlands before he dies. Khadgar, you see, has seen his own death. It was on a planet with a red sky surrounded by orcs. Now that's odd because we are certainly a long way away from Outland, but something is in the water. Something.
A planet with a red sky surrounded by orcs. What the hell could that be? I mean, we're not going back to Draenor in the expansion. I wonder if that's. But that's not that old. That happened in Shadowlands? Is that when did he see his own death? When did that happen? I wonder if they're gonna retcon that shit. That's weird. I don't know. I'm trying. Why would we go back to Draenor? Why would he be surrounded by orcs? Weird.
Things going on with him. Once again at the forefront in Dragonflight, he worked alongside Caligos in the Azure Span, and then he helped us into the Vault of the Incarnates. Then, though, as the cosmic mystery unfolded, he was, like his once master Medivh, the first person to point out that something terrible was about to happen. So he did what he could to learn about the Harbinger, and he sent his best Void Hunter to investigate, as we saw in the Darkheart patch. As for what next, well, we're going to need a ride to Khazalgar, and Khadgar has been inviting the best and the brightest to the city of Dalaran. Khazalgar is an absolute masterpiece of Dwarven and Titan lore. You've got the hill urban homes that look awesome. Straight out of Loch Modan too. Down in the Ringing Deeps, all of this.
This is so appealing to me. This just looks like Lord of the Ring right here. I'm going to the Shire. I can't wait, man. This looks awesome.
Of Loch Modan too. Down in the Ringing Deeps, all of this crazy, true Dwarven industry. I mean, hell, almost half the characters in this video are dwarves. So let's begin with the Bronzebeards. Bran Bronzebeard, the youngest of the brothers, is an archaeologist with a thirst for danger and a love of guns, and since the earliest days of Warcraft, he has been at the forefront of Titan lore. He's explored Ulduar, he's taught us about all the histories of the Earthen, and even as recently as Battle for Azeroth, he's been involved when we got to Nazmir and found even more Titan experiments going wrong. Bran was there to tell us that G'huun was essentially made from the spare parts of old gods. He does one important thing, basically. He explores new, dangerous places, and that makes him our perfect partner for the new Delves feature. On the other hand, though, Magni Bronzebeard is not looking so hot. He was our resident Azeroth expert during BFA, you know, the wounds. He turned himself into Diamond in order to speak with her, and after Sargeras attacked, he called us to the Chamber of the Heart. Throughout BFA, he was our guy, explaining every quirk of Titan technology or just who we needed to...
This isn't a spoiler. Magni's a crybaby. We did the whole pre-patch quest line. And he's bitching the whole time about how he can't talk to Azrath anymore, and he's angry why everyone else is here and he's not. And then he gets knocked out completely. He's in a coma right now in Dalaran. That's where we last left him. His daughter's trying to talk to him. His grandson's trying to talk to him. And he's just completely knocked out. Yeah, champion, yeah. I don't know. He's very upset, man.
Kill to get the job done. And you'd think with BFA over, Azeroth...
Who the hell was whispering to him? Why would the whispers stop when they matter most? Who the heck is he even talking to? Was it even Azeroth? We'll find out.
Was no longer in mortal danger. But then, at the end of Shadowlands, he told us that she was singing a new song, one of hope and healing. Every time our world soul is called out, Magni has been there to hear her. So that means he's obviously the first person we're going to talk to kick off this world soul saga, right? Well, not really, because as of pre-patch, Azeroth isn't speaking to Magni anymore, and he needs to start thinking about who he is without Azeroth. The Theissens. Okay, Magni Bronzebeard may have been once king of the dwarves, but the future king of the dwarves is actually a Dark Iron called Dagran Thracian II.
Yeah,
and while some players will know him, not everybody...
That's his son. That's the one I was just talking about, sitting by his bed.
will, so
Got a
let's
new
do
model.
the story. Dagran II's father, Dagran I, kidnapped Moira Bronzebeard, Magni's daughter. But the weird thing is they actually ended up falling in love and having a child. That child is Dagran II. Now, they didn't really get much time to celebrate all of this because we busted into Shadowforge City and we killed Dagran. When that happened, Moira refused to leave with us, and she became the Queen Regent of Shadowforge, and she basically continued the war with the Bronzebeards. Now, Magni said that he would never recognize Dagran II as his nephew, let alone as rightful heir to both Bronzebeard and Dark Iron lands. But after Magni was turned to Diamond, Moira pushed Dagran II's claim to the throne and invaded Ironforge. She ended up kidnapping Anduin, leading Varian on a bloody rampage that nearly ended with him executing Moira. What happened though was thankfully not as...
Man, what a Giga Chad Varian was. My god. What a Giga Chad. Man almost ended the Dwarven line. Don't forget, he almost ended the Forsaken line when he invaded the Undercity. He won that war. Single-handed, blasted through, took a crack squad of Alliance soldiers, just chopped through the entirety of that place, and was about to retake Lordaeron when he was stopped by his mages and stuff. And what's her? Oh my God, Frozen chick. What's her name? I can't remember now. And they got ported out. Not to mention he almost went toe to toe with Garrosh and Dalinar. Man, we need a character like Varian again. What a Giga Chad. He also fought frickin' Gul'dan one. He was going to fight Gul'dan one-on-one. Took out a giant Colossus by himself, one-shot it. Oh, awesome.
It's bloody. Anduin ended up hammering out a compromise here, and that compromise is the Council of the Three Hammers. So here's what Moira got. When Dagran II comes of age, he will be king of all of the dwarves, Bronzebeards, Dark Irons, and Wildhammer, and up until that point, the Council of the Three Hammers will...
Why did I forget? It's Jaina. Why did I forget her name? That's who I was thinking of when I said Frozen chick.
Rules. So, with that,
Alzheimer's.
Moira re-established the Dark Irons. She brought them into the Alliance and used their once connection to the Twilight's Hammer to infiltrate the cult and keep tabs on the Void. And all of this, of course, is in pursuit of Dagran II's ascension to king, where he won't just be king of the Bronzebeards, no, he will be basically king of all dwarves, an extremely powerful position. Now that's all well and good, but Dagran is also just a person, and he's actually not as ambitious as his father was. He's not as determined as his mother. He enjoys books, archaeology, research. He basically doesn't see himself as a warrior king, and I've got to imagine if anybody, he'd probably get...
I'm guessing that's where Dagran and Magni are going to find their kind of common ground. You know, Magni can speak to Azeroth, and Darren's very much interested in Azeroth. He's doing all his research and everything. So that's probably where they're gonna, we both love Azeroth. Hey, let's talk a little bit. Yeah, how's it going, Grandpa?
Along with Bran the Best, because they like researching things and archaeology. But regardless of who he is set to become king of the dwarves, and he will be joining us on this adventure. And so that's basically it. You're now caught up with the key cast of characters who will be following us into this expansion. Now, you might be looking at all these people and saying, hang on a second, where's the Horde? Blizzard, I think, are actually aware of that, and it very much does seem that the next expansion,
Midnight's gonna be more Horde-focused. I know all the Horde are like, oh, what happened? We're not relevant. You gotta be relevant, don't worry. Literally, Silvermoon is going to be like the centerpiece of Midnight, I guarantee it. And Lorthamar is going to be huge in that expansion. A lot of Elven stuff is going to happen, and you guys will have your moment in the sun, don't worry.
Will have a little bit more of a Horde focus. Now, there's obvious ways in which Midnight will have Alliance characters, given that it is happening, up north in the Eastern Kingdoms, but obviously, you've got the Blood Elves, you've got the Undead, loads of Horde-related things there.
They already confirmed they're doing a massive Silvermoon, not just revamp, but essentially rebuild, and I would think Silvermoon's going to become a hub city. It's going to be a huge part of the expansion. So, like I said, Lorthamar, Blood Elves, Horde, it's going to be very relevant.
And, of course, there is Thrall for now. The thing is, it doesn't really seem that Thrall is massively active in the opening thrust of this expansion, so I think that does mean that Blizzard are probably bringing him here with some sort of intention to do something a bit bigger with him in the future. But anyway, if you've been a little bit confused about where all of these characters have been or who they even are, well, I hope this video has helped you. And if you want to check out some more lore to help you get ready, how about this, which is a recap of the Dragonflight expansion so you know exactly where, plot-wise, we left off.
Yeah, really good video. Recap of Dragonflight. Bunch of scaly, guys and girls hug it out, make out for a while, and then some dark hard shit goes down, and Ridicron takes it and goes and does his thing with Xal'atath. There you go. That's all you gotta do. You gotta watch the video. But this is a good one from Bellular. Nice video, good recap. How relevant all these characters are gonna become. I think Anduin's gonna be at the forefront in Hallowfall for sure. Magni's gonna be probably knocked out for a little while, but will become relevant once again. And then we'll have to see how everybody else plays out. Obviously, Alyria is going to be huge going forward. Khadgar, will he survive the opening of the expansion? I sure hope so, man. I do. After that movie pulled on Xal'atath the other day, I hope he survives. But we'll have to wait and see. Nice video from Bellular.